and glue.
Okay, start. What's that made out of?
Toilet paper and glue. And the lady does this over in Village Green. She's very talented. This is very light, very sturdy, but it's made out of toilet paper and glue. There's no wire or anything else holding it together. It's quite amazing, and that's what the lady that raised me, my mom and dad were working, and her name was Leila Thompson, and that's what she looked like. And so I told her, and that's how she made it. I could not believe that. And she gets several $1,000s for these things, and she just gave them to me, and I'm going, oh my God. But that was Leila Thompson.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. This was, when we went into the governor's mansion on January the 15th, 1995, the chandelier was sitting on the ground on the stairs. And I can't the governor that was in there before Fob took over was from Coleman, Alabama. And I can't think of his name offhand. But this is some of the glass, and she threw most of it away, Bobby did. And I went to the trash can and I got this stuff out. And so this is some of the crystal that was from that huge chandelier. And it was huge. Oh my God, it took 2 days of cleaning up to get to that chandelier. And so that's from the chandelier's crystal. I love to eat with chopsticks. And so I've collected these over the years, and from different places around the world, well, not the world, but United States, and I just love to eat with chopsticks. And for a while, it took me quite a while to learn to eat with them, because I'd pick food up and sling it across the room, and I felt like an idiot, but that's what I did. This was the plane that I owned when I worked for the sheriff's office. It was a Super Cub, 150 horsepower, and I should have kept that plane, but I did not. But it was a wonderful flying plane.
It's beautiful.
Yes, ma'am. I don't know how to do this. When I was in the fire department, this is 2 awards I received from the fire department. Just things I had done and other things, but it was nothing really, as far as big time, no, nothing like that. I got Employee of the Year in Montgomery for Employee of the Year for the, I was not a deputy, but I was a civil process server. So I got Employee of the Year in 2010. And growing up, this was my Peter Rabbit book. 1952 edition, and I've just kept it. I don't know why I kept stuff like this, but I just did. And it was amazing. The book was. The high school I graduated from, we had to make our own certificate to graduate with, and it was required. If you didn't make it, you wasn't graduating. So we did that, but this is about 15 tries for me. I was not architectural minded, and
You did that calligraphy?
Yeah, even, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I didn't take any of that as far as. We had a Mayo teacher, I didn't take any, and so this is about 15 tries, and I don't know that I even spelled everything right, but they accepted it, and so I've had it all these years. But, yep. I didn't get that long ago either, but that was a real job. Oh my gosh. This was the wife that danced with Baryshnikov, and that was her, and this is her too.
Beautiful.
She was a character. She was not a small girl though. She was very big boned, and I don't know what, I haven't seen her in a while now. It's been probably 6 or 7 years, but she's aged, she's probably 60, she's 67 or 68 now. So she's a little older. When I was at the governor's mansion, I had a church that would just ask me to make things. So I made this in the inscription up there is what my mother always used to tell me.
That's perfect.
And this is yours.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. This came from the governor's mansion. It was the first glass when they inaugurated the place and made it what it was. There was a box of these glasses that were used, and they were put in the basement. Well, Bobby James, when she went in there, she was throwing this stuff away, and I managed to get 6 of these that were not broke. And this is real gold. You can't wash them. They've never been washed, and some of them had been washed, and the gold just comes off. And so it's just one of my favorite things. My uncle died. He left me 100 silver dollars, 1840 and up. But that's those.
Wow.
I have no idea what the value's worth. I have nobody ever come in and appraised them. I don't know.
I bet the silver alone is worth a lot.
But anyway, it's and he had 600 of them, but he had 6 nieces and nephews, and I was one of them, and so he left each one of us, of the 6, he left 100 silver dollars. And last but not least, I received this through the mail one day. I don't know where it's come from. I have no idea, but there's 1,200 stamps in here. All countries, everywhere else in the world. I'm just amazed, and there's a lot of places, and they're all used stamps. I did have a guy offer me $2,500 for it, and I turned him down because I have no idea what the value of these things are. But it's old, and I don't know where it come from. I have no earthly idea, and that's the truth. I don't know. This was the last day I farmed. That's the very last day. I was cutting soybeans, and that's the very last day.
You look like a farmer.
Yeah. Everybody says, hey, you just crud. And, but I loved it, but it's just a way of life that's gone. And 10 years from now, there won't be any farmland here. There really won't.
I'm afraid you're right.
Yep. And, but I've done a lot of things, and I guess I got a lot to be happy about. I really do.
These prisms are my favorite thing.
Yes,
Oh, my
ma'am. And they
goodness.
really, when you put them in the sunlight and it glisters, it's amazing.
The refraction is the best. And I love her. I know the name of that woman, and I can't think of it right now. I've met her too.
She was on Gone with the Wind.
Well, I mean, the woman that makes these. The woman in Village Green.
I can't think of her name either. She lives in Village Green over there, but she's very talented. She's done the shrimp festivals and things in the Gulf, and she makes these huge shrimp figurines, and she's very talented. I'm just going, geez. And she gets paid big money for that stuff, but she gave those things to me, and this I haven't seen her in probably a year and a half or something like that, but she's very talented.
She sure is. And she does look like Butterfly McQueen a little bit.
Yep, she looks just like
But
Liam
different.
Thompson. Totally, 100%.
That is just beautiful.
And so I've never been a prejudiced person ever in my life. I was raised by her and a black man, Willie Franklin, that was part of the store down here. Big hands, huge hands, and he had a thing called horseback. And if I was acting a fool, he'd just grab me like that and squeeze me off. Hey, whatever you want. Yeah, never mind, I'm done. Ah! Oh my God, it was, and he was amazing. Life's been a good run. I can't say it hadn't been. But I don't know that everybody hadn't had some kind of same thing as I've had in my life either. As far as things go, I know I've done some things that other folks never had the opportunity to do, and I am grateful for that. Be they a curse or not, but I've told you a lot of great things about me as far as things that's happened and so forth, but my life ain't perfect. I guarantee you, it's got a cold, and so I'd like for you to know probably one of the worst things in my life. I don't think that you should tell yourself to be nothing but wonderful and not be able to tell something that you're not proud of. I was 1975. I had a hunting dog. His name was Jim, and he was a short-haired pointer. A wonderful animal, but I guess that year the sap rose in me. That's what Daddy and Mama called it, was sap rising. So they were going to teach me a lesson. And so I was dating my first wife, and this is hard to talk about. You'll have to excuse me for this minute. I actually, over several months' time, let that dog die. And it's just lived with me for 1975. I'll take it to my grave. Now, my mother and father didn't help me any at all in that. They were teaching me a lesson. They could have given the dog the food and the water. They did not. And I'll just put it plain to you. Over a piece of ass, I let that dog die. That's my fault. I've had to live with it and have lived with it all my life. And people tell me from time to time, they say, Glenn, God gave his son up for our forgiveness. Well, that may be true, but I don't believe you can do an act that I did and just walk away from that. I think you have to answer for that. And I feel like that I will eventually have to answer for that. Maybe, I don't know what takes place when somebody dies. I have no earthly idea. But I think you have to answer for things you've done in life. I'm a firm believer in that. I don't think that even God doesn't excuse some things. But that's the worst thing in my life. And after doing all this, I felt like I needed to tell you that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And
I know how you think of your animal and how much you love that thing. And for me to do that was just the worst act any human being can do. I'm serious. I've regretted that to this day. And that was 1975, June to be exact. And I've never not lived a day or night without thinking about that.
well, I know I have, and Bill and I together have made some bad decisions where our animals were concerned. And Boo is part of the way I'm making up for it.
He's part of your family.
Oh, he is. He's my favorite child. I mean, I like John and everything. He's a good boy, but Boo. And I don't know, remorse in doing better next time, I think counts for a lot.
Um, I've never done anything like that ever since or anything, but it doesn't matter. That's still there, and I just live with it. And I thought I needed to tell you that at least.
Well, thank you for sharing that. You want to take a break?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. But sometimes I just wake up at night and that's all I can think about because I knew how the animal was. And the dog loved me to death. And for me to do something like that, it was after it come home to me, and I thought that, and I just, oh my gosh, it's just.
First girlfriends are intoxicating.
True.
Very.
And that's not her fault. That's mine. I'm the one that made the decision like that, and my mother and dad were going to teach me a lesson. They let me know that after the dog was dead, and I that was a hard lesson to learn.
Well, that's hard people to watch that happening and not say something.
Or do something.
Or do something.
Yeah, I've had people tell me that too, but I'm taking total responsibility of what took place on that was not done.
Well, you remember you met my first boyfriend down at Jesse's with my mother and me that night.
Yep.
And I promise you he did some stupid things because of me. And he's a lovely guy. But teenagers, you know.
I think I was about 21, somewhere along in that range. But, I was a late bloomer, I guess, on life, but I guess it just went slap nuts. I don't know what my problem was, but it's just a regret that, but I don't believe that, even though I've had friends tell me, oh, God forgives you for all that, just let it go. I can't do that. I really can't.
I understand. I've got a couple of those too.
Because the dog was an excellent hunting dog. I could turn him loose and he'd check an area out and he'd come right back to me and sit down. And a wonderful animal. And when they told me he was dead, and then I realized I hadn't done anything to help that animal, it was hard. It has been since 1975, June of 1975. And, geez.
50 years.
But that's, as far as life goes, that's pretty much all that's been in my life. I don't have anything else any worse than that in it. None whatsoever. That just topped it off. And I had some family that was worthless, and I had to shoot at one from time to time. And I should have killed him. I did not, but I should have. And he's done some things that was really quite atrocious. And still living. His mother and dad is gone, and he was adopted also. But he had two sisters that are still living. One's a nurse down in, I want to say, Jacksonville, Florida. The other's in Robertsdale, lives in Silver Hill. I see her from time to time. She goes to a Barlow Methodist church, and they have French fries, so I go through there and get a plate to go with them and say hello to her. And his two sisters are wonderful, but name's Wayne. He's just, my God, but he had a bad drug habit, and he'd do anything for drugs, absolutely. It didn't matter what it was. And, but I'm sure there's other people in their lives that had relatives that bad. Yeah, sure.
Yes.
And I don't know anybody would want to read a book with some of the crap that I've told you that's in there. A lot of it's interesting, but then again, I think if you're going to do something like that, you need to tell the whole story.
I think a lot of people would be interested in reading this.
Well, um, as I say again, I think that everybody has a story in their life. It's just whether they want to tell it or not.
Do you? You seem like you do.
I do. I would not talk about this if I didn't want to tell it. That's true. And life's not exactly what I expected it to be. I expected to be a farmer all my life, and then when Dad sold it in 1994, and then sold most of the property off, I'm going, damn. And so I knew I had to do some other things, and so that's when Fob kind of took over in '94, and he won an election in '95, and so then it allowed me to go different places. And I originally thought that I'd go to the mansion they've got in the beach, the governor's office has, and it was given by, hell, what governor was that? Jeez. It's bad when the brain goes, I think, and dang, I got Alzheimer's. Wallace, he was governor then, and so his son, Wallace Jr., he still has the right to claim that mansion or that property back. As long as the state keeps it up, they can have it. But at one point, they let that thing really run down, and it got to be just, I mean, it was nothing. And so he was about to take it back, and then the state pours a bunch of money into it, fixed it up. It was really nice.
Is that out on Fort Morgan?
Yes, ma'am, on the Fort Morgan Road. I want to say it's about 15 miles down.
It's right next to the Surfside neighborhood, isn't it?
It is. And you go down to the beach on these one lane going this way and one lane coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you swing around, and it's it's on the beach, but it's really nice now. The state fixed it up pretty nice, but I don't know how often governors use that thing anymore. But she and I would go down there and spent lots of times down there, and just her and I'm just winking, this is kind of scary. She's sleeping in this room, I'm in that room, that's fine and dandy, but I always worried about newspapers, because the news can really scatter you out and about and whatever else, but none of that ever came about, because it didn't happen. But Bobby was a character, though. Lord have mercy. And she'd get scared sometimes, and they had a couch, and it was just a long couch, and luckily enough, it wasn't as short as this one that you're on, and I could stretch out on it, and her room was right here, and she'd have the door open and maybe a light on in there trying to go to sleep or whatever, and so I slept on that couch all night long. And one night, Fob comes in about, I think it's 2 a.m, and I feel his hand on me. I wake up, oh shit! And it was Fob, and he said, "What are you doing out here?" I said, "She's in there about scared to death. I don't know of what." He said, "I'll straighten it out." And that's the last. And I went on back down to my room and went to sleep. But oh my goodness, that was just a really a strange experience and stuff that I've done. And oh my word.
They were sure lucky to have you.
Like I said, I worked for him for about 20 years. 1981, he lost the race to somebody, and so then they moved to Magnolia Springs in '81 and built a house on the river on this side, but it was way back in the back there, and of course it's all built up now, and it's quite a community in there, but it's a gated community, and but it was just their house was all that was there at the time. So if he was going to be somewhere, if he was going to Louisiana duck hunting, he'd have people that was going with him going duck hunting. Then I got stuck staying there to keep her from being scared to death, because she didn't like duck hunting. She didn't like eating ducks. I mean, she didn't want nothing to do with ducks, but that's the way she was. And then when I was there, I wasn't farming because Dad had stopped the farm pretty much and started leasing it out. And so I'd drive her to, over that 20-year period, I'd drive her to Mobile and Pensacola, and she'd do her shopping. And she loved just reading paper, magazine, or whatever. And while I was driving, she could not stand driving. Oh my goodness. And she wasn't good at driving. Ugh. But the first time there in '81, and I don't know if I've ever told anybody this story, Bobby told me that they had a lady working for her that was, what's the word for that? A little autistic. I guess that's the word I'll use. She wasn't stupid, she was just a little autistic. And so one day she gets upset with Bobby and they have an argument. She runs out, jumps in the car, takes off. She didn't have a driver's license, she didn't drive. She took off and she went to Jackson Hospital. Got out, ran inside, got on an elevator, went to the top floor, got out, ran up the steps, got on the roof, and jumped. Bobby James was behind her the whole time. You fall that distance, you're not going to make it when you hit bottom. So she died, and Bobby told me that story that went on, and I said, don't worry, I ain't going to do that.
No, how horrible.
Yeah, and she told me that story. I've never told that story to anybody else. No, that was an unbelievable story. And in fact, when they left the mansion in '99, they owned a place in Laverne outside of a little town called Rutledge. And they owned 2,000 acres in a swamp. And they built a house up on a hill. And I'd take Fob down there and we'd go hog hunting and stuff from time to time. And since I said that, let me get one more item to show you from that particular incident. Now the state bought me this, and it's a .40 caliber to protect Fob or Bobby. So the state bought me that, and I've had that. I didn't have to give it back. It was something that came from the governor's office, so let me have that. But when I hunted with him, we hunted hogs, and so I couldn't handle a .40 caliber, a .44 Magnum really, and that's what this is, a .44 Magnum with a scope on it. But incredible weapon, it really was. It was nothing in it. Period. Let me show you that. There's nothing in it. And but I couldn't shoot 246 grain bullet. That was too much power for my little hands. So I shot 165 grain bullet, and which I can keep in front. But we killed lots of hogs and stuff like that, and that's the weapon of choice that I use for that because it really had knockdown power. And but as far as working with Fob or Bobby or anywhere I was with her, the .40 caliber is the one I carried.
Wow.
But I probably couldn't hit that fireplace if I shot now. I hadn't shot in years.
Oh, you could.
I doubt it. But it was just one of those things. And but I have a gun safe in there, and I keep everything locked up so nobody doesn't get a hold of anything. And
Are either one of those your cousin shooting guns?
No. No, he has a 6-shooter, but nothing like that. No. The 9mm that I had that I shot at him with, I gave to a stepson. He likes to shoot and stuff, so he he's works for the state as a computer expert. He can tear a computer down to be parts laid everywhere, and I'm going, how do you know what goes where? And then he put it all back together and have it back working. And so he works for the state in the RSA Tower up there, and that's what he does for a living. And yeah, I haven't shot things. In fact, I haven't bird hunted or anything in years now. We don't have many doves come through anymore, and we used to could bait them up and stuff, but you can't bait them anymore, and it's against the law and so forth. But yeah, that's very nice weapon, both of them.
Both of them, yeah.
The 40 caliber was. I asked the guy in the state that gave it to me. I said, "What does something like this cost?" He said, "That's $1,500 for the 40 caliber." And the 44 Magnum, I bought that, and that was $1,200. And but it was the better weapon because the scope on it, you just line it up, it was there. And but the 40 caliber had to be a little more specific as far as shooting it. But that's why I said the only thing I hit a broadside of a barn with it now or anything. But yeah, and but like I say, I keep them locked up in the gun cabinet because I don't want somebody to get a hold of something that doesn't. No telling what's going to happen with it.
No.
And the 44 Magnum is not a household weapon because it'll go through this wall, through the fireplace, through another wall over here with that 246 grain bullet, and it's just really, it's way bigger than my thumb. It's a huge bullet, and but I can't shoot that. I shoot 165 grain, which doesn't have the kickback. And even at 165, you can an oak tree that big around, you split it. So I safety-wise, I just keep them locked up. In fact, most of the people here don't know I have such weapons as that. And the deputies came in one time, and I had been broke into, so I had a deputy come in. So I showed him what I had, and I said, "Do I need to register this?" He said I wouldn't. That's what he said to me. So I've never registered them or anything. I just keep them locked up. And the keys are well hidden, so I mean, it works out. But the thing with the 10 years, I'd been at the sheriff's department 10 years, and I was the type of person that took any kind of job that they offered. As far as doing, as the captain called me, and I had a woman, Captain Atchison, and she called, I just went in, and whatever she wanted done, I did. Deliver papers, just you name it, I did it. And to receive that in just 10 years' time was because some of them had been there almost 30 years and they had never received anything. So it depends on how you present yourself or excel with yourself or put yourself out there, whether you want to do something or not.
Putting yourself out there is more than half the battle, for sure.
Yeah, and you know that I think college education is really good. I really don't have any college education, but I think common sense has a lot to do with a lot of things, and how bad you want to do something has a lot to do with things. If you really want something bad enough, you'll fight till you get it. I'm a firm believer of that.
I am too.
But I think that as far as computers and things this day and time, there's kids out here that are 4 and 5 years old that know more than I'll ever know about a computer as long as I live. And it really doesn't bother me that they know that because I know that's the coming world to be, and that's the future. But I'll survive.
I think you'll be just fine.
Yeah.
I love that you eat with chopsticks. I love to eat with chopsticks.
Yes, ma'am. It took me a while to master those things, but I finally did. And when I go to restaurants that they have those there, I don't get the little plastic wooden things they give you or whatever. I try to see if they have wooden ones there that I'll use, or either I'll take my own and that's what I'll use. But it took a while to learn though, because I was slinging food around really. I'd look up and go, oh God.
Me too. So I taught my son when he was young.
Yep. I was at the governor's mansion actually when I started learning to want to eat with that, and Bobby James had taken me to a place called Lexus, and it's a train station in Montgomery, and it's I can't think of the country now. Beijing or somewhere in that. No, not Beijing. Maybe, but anyway, he was from that country, and he would go back once a year, and he'd bring back these wooden chopsticks or different ones from over there, and so whenever I'd go there to eat, that's what I'd eat with was the chopsticks he had. He always showed me he had this cabinet that was filled with them and other things, but the chopsticks interested me the most. And
I carried them in my lunchbox to work.
did you?
Because they're so much easier to clean than a spoon and a fork.
They really are.
And if I can't figure out how to eat it with sticks, maybe I don't need it.
No. That's pretty damn good.
It worked. I stopped short of doing it to my child, but that's what I did.
Wow. Other than that, I was trying to think of other things in my life, but I don't know. The Bible on the top shelf up there came from Israel. Bobby was going to Israel one year, and the little red bird next to it, that was from Fanny Flagg, and she gave that to me after the book came out. But anyway, Bobby said, Glenn, I'm going to Israel, but now if I get stuck over there, it's your job to come get me. I said, no, I'm not your husband, he is. Bob said, well, I guess she'll be there a while because I damn sure ain't going. That's what he told her. Oh, she give him hell all day long about that. Golly damn. She got so mad she strewed clothes up and down the banisters and stuff. I'm going, really, Bobby, do you have to be? He said, Glenn, do you go back to your apartment and give me a couple hours? I said, I'll do something to calm this woman down. So I went back to my apartment, and my apartment was done in zebra and black and white and zebra stripes and yellow. And yellow was her favorite color. And I don't know that I still have those pictures, but let me see if I can find a picture real quick for you, so you have an idea of what that apartment looked like. It looked like something out of a psychedelic zoo.
That's so awesome.
Oh my God.